Successful enterprising and sustainable growth is best achieved through innovation and cooperation built on trust and hard work. Food for thought there. Hello and welcome. I'm Arroyo Eubanks. Thanks for making it Jamaica Magazine. On today's pages, legislation to promote the safety and health of employees in the workplace. Plus, heart failure. How can you prevent it? Also, the Beatitudes of Love. Important virtues that make for strong family relationships. Sit back and relax for these and more as we turn the pages of Jamaica Magazine.
There is no vaccine for the chikungunya virus. If you've been infected, take paracetamol such as Panadol, Cetamol, and Tylenol to reduce pain and fever. Sleep under mosquito netting and get plenty of rest. Take showers or sponge baths in room temperature water to lower fever, especially in children, and drink lots of fluids to prevent dehydration. If your symptoms worsen, go and see a doctor. Do not take aspirin as this could cause bleeding, and never use rubbing alcohol. To learn more, call 1-888-1-LOVE. That's 1-888-663-5683.
There's a long-distance relay that's still on. Many have taken it this far, each leg as important as the next, each challenge faced with determination. Now it's your turn to take the baton. People living with HIV and AIDS and those who are vulnerable need your commitment. It stands in the way of a better quality of life for all of us and our self-respect as a region. It stands in the way of victory in the fight to stop the spread of HIV. Reject stigma and discrimination. Get us to zero.
Safe working environments are important to productivity, business success, and competitiveness. In recognition of this, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security is moving to have the Occupational Safety and Health Bill 2015 tabled in Parliament in the upcoming legislative year. Let's find out more on this national priority.
So many of us revere the financial independence and security that comes with holding a job. And while some subscribe to the adage, no pain, no gain as they toil, it is important to remember that in the pursuit of wealth, we do not compromise precious health. Over the years, there have been reports of workers being injured or even worse, killed while on the job. These incidents often occur in areas such as construction sites or factories. But in some cases, such incidents could have been prevented if proper safety measures were observed. The importance of having in place appropriate systems that identify and mitigate against workplace hazards cannot be ignored. The Occupational Health and Safety Department in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security is at the forefront of efforts aimed at ensuring that health and safety practices are given top priority in the workplace. The department's role is supported through legislation which is subject to review in order to suit the changing realities of the workplace.
Occupational safety and health in Jamaica right now is administered under several pieces of legislation, but the main one is the Factories Act, for which we have responsibility for here at the Ministry of Labour. The Factories Act looked at safety and health in what is prescribed in the Act as factories, and that covers a very wide gamut of places.
The Factories Act was passed in 1943, but has a limited definition of what constitutes a factory. Under this Act, a construction site is considered a factory, a ship in the harbour unloading goods, a gas station that services motor vehicles, a garage, welding shops, and other establishments are considered factories. The Pesticides Act, another piece of legislation, covers the use of chemicals, while the Public Health Act covers some matters that may arise out of public health issues in the workplace. Other pieces of legislation that deal with different aspects of health and safety in the workplace are the Natural Resources Conservation Agency Act and the Mines and Quarries Act, covering areas such as the bauxite industry. However, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSH, a new piece of legislation being developed to provide protection against accidents and injuries and prevent episodes of ill health arising from the workplace, will, in due course, replace the Factories Act.
This act, OSH Act, will cover all jurisdiction throughout the country where occupational safety and health is concerned. And the second thing is going to cover all workplaces. So it's not only prescribed places, but anywhere anyone works. Once you are involved in any form of employment, you will be covered by the Act.
An important aspect of the OSH Act is joint responsibility, where it is the responsibility of both the employer and the worker to promote safety and health in the work environment. Employees have a duty to ensure that they do not endanger the lives of co-workers, and they should also ensure that they observe safety rules as set out by the employer. This could include wearing proper safety gear while performing certain tasks.
The Act requires that, one, that you ensure that there's a policy in your workplace that speaks to the commitment of the management to occupational safety and health. And then, of course, there should be a program in your workplace. And every single workplace can have a program. There's no program that can be implanted from one workplace to the next. Every workplace has a different program because there are different sets of hazards and risk.
A policy procedure manual on life-threatening illnesses, LTIs, in the workplace, including HIV/AIDS, was developed to provide practical guidelines to assist managers to effectively deal with LTIs among employees.
We will be monitoring the workplace also, so that a person who has not been treated according to the LTI, the life-threatening illness policy in the workplace, and if they are affected or infected by HIV/AIDS, that workplace will be subjected to prosecution under the law because of the regulation that will be in place to protect these persons who have life-threatening illnesses in the workplace.
Now, in the interim, while Jamaica awaits the passing of the OSH Act, the Occupational Safety and Health Department has embarked on a voluntary compliance program, which began on November 1, 2007. The program sets out the legally binding requirements that an employer will have to meet once the OSH law is passed.
The voluntary compliance program is really a program that we have put in place so that persons can make themselves ready for the new act. So that if you volunteer, you can say, look, I volunteer to subject my company to the requirements of the new act, although the act is not yet enacted. And we will guide you through what it is that you need to put in place, how you should, put a program in, and what is required for your workplace.
Employers who participate and have met the requirements stipulated will receive a compliance certificate that they are already ahead, operating under the new Occupational Safety and Health Act. For more information on the Voluntary Compliance Program or the Occupational Safety and Health Act, you can call the Emergency and Complaints Department within the Ministry of Labour and Social Security at 967-5958 or 922-9500-14.
Tried, the truth I cannot hide to keep you satisfied. The true love I now exist is the love I can't resist. So jam by my side. Ooh, yeah.
Mr. God, I didn't want to ask you this question a long time. Do you have a JADET card? If you have a JADET card, it can save you lots of money when you go to the pharmacy.
Man, certainly, man. I have my own JADET card, man. I've had it for quite some time now. That's helped me tremendously with my health condition.
That's nice.
Senior citizens on the Jamaica Drug for the Elderly program. Take your card to participating government or private pharmacies that display the JADET sign. Then collect your monthly supply of approved drugs for the chronic illnesses covered by the program. To know more, call the toll-free number 1-888-GO-JADEP. That's 1-888-465-2337.
Heart disease is the #1 cause of death in Jamaica and the Caribbean. But researchers have found that most heart diseases can be prevented. Prevention is a major focus of the Ministry of Health as it moves to address non-communicable diseases. Here's a closer look at this silent killer.
According to medical experts, heart failure is a progressive condition in which the heart muscle has been damaged by disease or injury and cannot pump enough blood and oxygen to the body. The severity of heart failure determines the impact it has on a person's life. According to Dr. Knox Hagley, chairman of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the mild form of heart failure may have little effect on a person's life, while severe heart failure can interfere with even simple activities and prove fatal. He said all forms of heart failure, even the mildest, pose a serious health problem which must be treated promptly.
To understand what is meant by heart failure, you need to take into consideration that the heart is a pump. And any good pump, any efficient pump, whatever goes into that pump, the pump pumps it out. And if the pump is not doing that, it is failing. It's a similar thing with the heart failure. Blood goes into the right side of the heart from the body, and the right side of the heart pumps it into the lungs. And if the right side of the heart has failed to do this properly, it is called right-sided heart failure. The blood leaves the lungs and goes into the left side of the heart, and the left side of the heart then pumps the blood to the rest of the body. And if, in fact, the left side of the heart is not doing this efficiently, left-sided heart failure occurs. And quite often, both left and right sides of the heart have failed in such a case, and so we call that congestive heart failure.
The term congestive heart failure is often used to describe all patients with heart failure. Dr. Hagley said, in reality, congestion, that is, buildup of fluid, is just one of the features of the condition and does not occur in all patients. He said there are a number of diseases that affect the heart that could result in heart failure. These, he said, vary with age and family history.
Some children are born with heart disease, and we call that congenital heart disease. One of the most common causes of congenital heart disease was German measles. And a number of the children who were born with conditions like hole in the heart, for instance, were due to the fact that the mother had German measles at the time that the organs in the fetus were developing. So the development of the heart was affected. Then we go on to the older children. And in the children, usually from 5 to 12, 15, but it may occur at earlier age, is a condition called rheumatic heart disease. This is really a manifestation of rheumatic fever, which occurs predominantly in children with fever, and it presents with fever and pains in the joints, and in such a case, the heart may be affected. We see this among children, even new cases. And it is rheumatic heart disease is in fact still one of the major causes of cardiac surgery that we see here.
Dr. Hagley said in the older age group, heart failure does not happen in a vacuum. It is closely associated with major risk factors.
We look at things like high blood pressure, which may begin to appear usually in the 30s, sometimes early on. But long-standing high blood pressure will lead to heart disease, because high blood pressure, in addition to the fact that it gives the left side of the heart extra work to do, and so the heart muscle will become enlarged, as you would expect. But in addition to that, the high blood pressure causes certain changes in the arteries which carry the blood to the tissues. And the result of those changes really is a narrowing of the channel to the arteries, and that includes the arteries which are carrying blood to the heart muscle. The other major cause of heart disease in adults in today's world is a condition called coronary heart disease. That is the disease that leads to heart attacks, for instance. Everybody knows about heart attacks. Well, the changes which occur in this condition are the changes that are different from high blood pressure in that the changes occur on the lining of the arteries, as you see here. And eventually, those changes lead to narrowing of the vessels and then inadequate blood flow. If that vessel becomes blocked, a heart attack will occur. And of course, the heart, part of the heart muscle which was dependent on that blood flow will be affected. Sometimes it may be a much more insidious process that the individual may not recall having a heart attack in a sense, but over the years, the channels become so narrow that the blood flow throughout is reduced, so the heart as a whole suffers from this, and they go into heart failure eventually.
Patients can minimize the effect of heart failure by controlling the risk factors for heart disease. Obvious steps include quitting smoking, losing weight if necessary, abstaining from alcohol, making dietary changes by reducing the amount of salt and fat consumed, and exercising regularly is also helpful for many patients, but a doctor should carefully recommend the amount and intensity. Causes of heart diseases that could lead to heart failure are high cholesterol levels, high blood pressure, diabetes and abnormal blood sugar levels, obesity, and smoking. Remember that it is never too late to reduce your risk of developing heart failure and other heart-related diseases. But the time to act is now.
The 2015-2016 financial year is almost here, and the government will be ready before April 1.
For the first time, we are going to be passing a budget before the end of the financial year.
The ceremonial opening of Parliament will be on Thursday, February 19, when the Governor-General will outline government's plans for the fiscal year. Then, later in the afternoon, another history-making move.
We shall be presenting the estimates of expenditure and the estimates of revenue at the same time.
It's a far more organized way to present the budget.
Parliament's Standing Finance Committee will then consider the budget on March 3 and 4, and the Finance Minister will open the budget debate on March 12. He will be followed by the opposition spokesman on finance on March 17, the leader of the opposition on March 19, and the Prime Minister on March 24. The Finance Minister will then wrap up the budget on March 25. The Government of Jamaica, keeping you at the center of government, improving to ensure better financial management.
I feel like shut down, I feel like moving, and I feel like grooving now. La 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 la, la 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 la.
Among the virtues in life which will reward us with fulfillment is love, making the care, well-being, and happiness of others essential even for our own well-being. It is often said that we should seek as much to love as to be loved.
Love is more than 3 words mumbled before bedtime. Love is sustained by action, a pattern of devotion in the things we do for each other every day.
There are many definitions and types of love, but what do you think love is?
Love is not the feeling that you feel when you feel that feeling.
For me, it's like just a mixture of forgiveness, long-suffering, patience, kindness, gentleness. Sometimes you get upset too.
Love is commitment.
You are so committed to this person, so regardless of all of these things that come in, you're just this thing that, boy, listen, it's still you.
A conscious decision that you make. Very, very, as males, we have to be conscious. It's a conscious decision to decide. Because if you don't consciously make that decision, you know, when you walk out of the road, you're going to be presented with something else in your eyes. That something else is better. But it's the commitment that brings you back home.
That sense of security, that sense of warmth, that sense of, you know, feeling just good and happy, you know, with the person, around the person, not feeling so stuck up, or if you see the person, you just kiss your teeth and gone and cut your hair and wish if him never appear. You know, you just feel comfortable in the person's presence at all times.
Well, love is a very complex, affective state. Ranges from the generic love that we talk, or you might say you love a good meal, and then you go to the other side where you love for your girlfriend or boyfriend, and then you go to being dedicated to take care of someone. So you have a whole range of what is called love. Within the family context, you have the mother, father, husband, wife taking care of each other, but it's also, it should be a nurturing environment for the development of the child, the son, the daughter, etc. If a child is in an environment that is not stable, not supportive, it's violent, then that child isn't going to do well in school. When the brain is hyperactive, when the brain is constantly being exposed to the various stressors, that brain is not able to learn the everyday things because it's too involved in taking care of itself for survival. So the home situation is absolutely important. The family situation is absolutely important for the nurturing of man, woman, and children.
You know, one of the things about a relationship is that you have got to understand that it is not even about the physical, you know. Because let me tell you something, some guys some ladies get some handsome man, have all the physique. Because I know she used to like tall, strapping men.
Yes.
You know?
Somebody can lift me up.
And I used to like short ladies who I couldn't lift up.
So we both get the opposite.
So they get the opposite. But the thing about it is that it is not about the material.
Yeah.
It is what you see in the person, and what you see will happen in the future. You cannot visualize that this person is more than just that.
I respect him so much that I don't allow other persons to say anything derogatory about him. I do, if I'm upset about something he says, you will never hear us arguing in public. You will not hear us arguing outside the room. We sit down and we think about what it is that we will say to each other before we say it. So we're not going to talk to each other in the heat of the moment because it is important that what I say to you is not going to be damaging or hurting.
Our top news stories of the week are next.
Hi there, I'm Simone Wolf with your JIS News of the Week. Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller this week expressed confidence that Jamaica was on track to meet its 7th straight successful IMF performance review.
We are encouraged to have achieved economic growth of 1.8% between the middle of 2013 and the same period in 2014. We recognize, however, that we will need greater levels of growth and jobs to secure the economic gains that our people need.
To achieve that, the Prime Minister said her administration would be executing some priority plans this year.
My government will continue the commitment to our economic reform program, redouble our efforts to create jobs, encourage higher levels of growth and investment, and continue to improve our physical and social infrastructure.
Meanwhile, in a statement to Parliament on Tuesday, Finance Minister Dr. Peter Phillips said there would be no increase to property tax rates in the next fiscal year. Instead, he said the focus would be on improving collections.
In this regard, a bill entitled the Property Tax Act Amendments will be coming to Parliament in the next parliamentary year to give the fiscal authorities the power to introduce specific compliance measures that we would expect should result in an increase in the property tax compliance rate.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has broken ground for the renovation of the Hagley Park Health Centre in St. Andrew.
The renovation project is designed to result in improving patient experience and overall service delivery. This administration will continue to put policies and programs in place to ensure that every Jamaican can have the best opportunity to lead a healthy and productive life.
The upgrading is being financed by the National Health Fund at a cost of $42.6 million, and work should be completed in 10 months' time. About 27,000 residents are expected to benefit. Meanwhile, Southeast St. Andrew residents are now enjoying the services of the newly refurbished Nannyville Health Centre. The centre was renovated at a cost of over $50 million and was officially opened by Health Minister Dr. Fenton Ferguson on Wednesday.
We are on a move to improve the primary care infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure right across the country.
The Ministry of Agriculture will be stepping up its Irish potato and onion production this year. CEO of the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, Lenworth Fulton, says RADA is aiming to have local farmers producing the country's total demand for onion by the year 2018. Meanwhile, Irish potato production this year is to be increased by 285 hectares, yielding a possible 33 million pounds of the crop.
Our demand for local consumption is around 34-35 million pounds per year. Last year we did approximately 915 hectares of Irish potato. This year we expect to do 1,200 hectares. And this 1,200 hectares, if we are not struck with the drought as last year, would give us probably 33-32 million pounds of Irish potato.
And finally, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has called for greater unity and partnership among countries to advance sustainable development for all. While addressing members of the diplomatic corps on Tuesday, Mrs. Simpson Miller urged Jamaica's diplomatic partners to join the United Nations Secretary General's call for 2015 to be the year of action on a number of cross-cutting issues affecting the world. These include poverty, climate change, security, and economic stability.
We recognize that a collective response in the global spirit of cooperation and concern for each other's welfare will ensure that we leave a lasting and sustainable legacy.
And those were some of the stories making news this week. I'm Simone Wolf.
The Ebola virus is transmitted through direct contact with an infected person's blood or other bodily fluids like saliva, urine, stool, and semen. Symptoms of Ebola include sudden fever, intense weakness, muscle pain, headache, and sore throat. This may be followed by vomiting, diarrhea, and rash, and in some cases both internal and external bleeding, leading to death. Protect yourself. Avoid travel to Ebola-affected countries. Avoid contact with infected persons. Don't touch the body of someone who has died from Ebola. Wash hands frequently with soap and water and use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. To know more, call 1-888-663-5683.
This is where we close the pages of today's edition of Jamaica Magazine, but we want you to keep the link. Hit us up on Twitter at JIS News and visit us on our website, jis.gov.jm, for the very latest government information. You can also send an email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. I'm Arroya Eubanks. Until next time, take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.